Hi there. Travel and Things presents In Conversation With. I'm your host, David Batsoffen, and today I'm joined by author and now proud author of an ebook. That's Sophia Lindop. Sophia, good day. Welcome to you.
Thank you so much, David. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Cheers. It's only a pleasure. It's been some while since we chatted. In fact, the last time we spoke, we were talking about this particular book,
Indeed.
which was Going Home. But now you've moved on, and you've left the wonderful world of hard copy behind, and you've moved on, I believe, to ebooks. And the
I
new one is
have.
A Handful of Earth, and you're going plant-based. Do tell.
I, it's actually been a wonderful learning curve, this whole ebook thing.
Right.
But it's just the way the world is going at the moment, and people are online looking for recipes. And I thought, well, why not give them something beautiful to cook from? So I'm so proud of this. It contains all Paddy's sketches because he's quite a good artist actually, and he's always sketching different bits of food, and so it's got his little sketches and playing in there.
Mm.
But I think I grew up on a farm, as you know, and I've always wanted to grow my own produce in our garden. And even in Lebanon, each house has its own little garden with fruit trees and everything. And it was my dream. I had the chickens and everything, but nothing would grow because we have a shady garden. And so
Okay.
nothing grew, and eventually I gave up. And then during lockdown, you feel quite restricted, as you know, and everywhere you go, you're masked up. And so I started dreaming about having a little plot of land where I could grow food
Mm.
and start playing with what I'm growing, and started asking around. And a friend said, well, I have a little piece of my garden and you can come and grow your vegetables here. And it's beautiful. It's high up near Cecilia Forest, so it's just beautiful. You hear the raptors calling from one tree to the other while I'm working. Beautiful sunlight, and it became my little um, happy space, and space where I didn't have to wear a mask, where I could just go and be.
Mm.
And it was amazing because the earth is so fertile that I would plant. The one day I left on a Friday, I left a little courgette like this, and when I got back on Monday, it was this massive thing, and it's just amazing. And I learned so much about growing things, and also then was stuck with like crates of tomatoes and all kinds of things. And I thought, well, why not give out a book? And plant-based is so much the way to go at the moment. Patty and I eat during the week. We eat plant-based. There's a wonderful curry happening on the stove with aubergines and tomatoes and all lovely things. And then on weekends we eat meat. I'm by no means am I vegetarian or vegan, but I enjoy the food and it makes me feel good. And I just started to wonder whether it's not time that we all start to get our hands in the earth again and connect with our food on a different level. And so it's been very meaningful to me, really has. Loved it. um, Learned a lot. Fought with alpha male baboon who ate all my mealies, so I didn't have any corn at all. And he
Have you
would
come
kind
to
of
an
walk past
arrangement?
me. Well, one day I was standing with a hose and watering, and I just felt this thing come past my leg. And I thought, what the heck? And there he walked past me and sat and ate all my corn. So yeah, I've kind of said, okay, you can have the corn, but
Yeah.
please leave the rest. Yeah, it's fair. What's
I,
fair is fair.
I have to say we rekindled our garden in our backyard, our vegetable garden, and it has
Mm-hmm.
exploded. Butternuts and squash have just taken over. What started out as plants like this
I
big.
know.
It's like Day of the Triffids outside. You open the kitchen door and
Yes,
they're coming in. I heard
exactly.
on the
Like,
door,
hello.
and hello, we somewhere in
Yeah.
there, my wife tells me are Brussels sprouts. We can't find them. We will no
I'm
doubt.
sure the caterpillars will find them. I'm sure they will. But it's
Everybody
such
says
a
you got to spray. We don't spray. If they want to eat, they can eat. We've
no.
got more than enough. But it's wonderful to come home and find like a bowl of fresh baby tomatoes, or some beans or some peas
It's
that you can
wonderful.
just crunch into. And they're straight out of our back garden, no insecticide, no nothing at all, and grown from rubbish that we've been, the stuff that we use in the
Exactly.
house, the wet waste, is just being recycled in the garden now. It's wonderful.
Exactly. And David, I'm not sure if you know, but during lockdown, when they were doing the Michelin stars,
Mm.
it was the first time ever that a vegan restaurant won a Michelin star somewhere in the south of France. And that just is the sign of the times.
Yeah.
People are eating more and more organic, healthy, vegetable matter, plant-based. So it was time to play with that a bit. And there's some interesting combinations. There are 18 recipes.
Mm.
And a friend of mine who is a photographer in Johannesburg, she did a 2-day road trip down and back, and she stayed with us for 2 weeks, and we just worked. I cooked, styled, she photographed, and then I found this wonderful young designer in Johannesburg, playful, on the cutting edge, and we just had so much fun. I love it. I think it's wonderful.
Listen, your photographs, your food, or the photographers that you've worked with in the past have always
Yes,
made your pages sing and made your
thank you.
recipes leap off the pages. And even if you don't cook, you can just salivate over the pictures and
Yeah.
almost get the smell coming off the pages. You really
Oh, that's lovely
have.
to hear. I have worked with some very talented people in the past. So it's lovely to get that feedback. Thank you.
Now, where does plant-based fit in if you've sort of got vegan on the one extreme and carnivore on the other? Where does
So
plant-based slide into the mix?
a lot of people confuse plant-based and vegan, and they're not actually the same. And I did not want to go vegan because I don't use tofu in my cooking, and I don't use a lot of the things that a vegan diet would use. Mine is purely plants. That is
Okay,
literally what it was all about. And I think a lot of people confuse the two and think that plant-based is vegan, but it is not necessarily. I mean, in this instance, it is. I didn't want to call it vegan, but the
right.
book is vegan. There's um, nothing in it that a vegan diet will not approve of.
Okay.
But I was very careful not to call it vegan as per se.
Why is there still
So we
such a
shut.
stigma attached to the word vegan or veganism? It's almost
Mm,
people shame you. They phone a restaurant and they go, "Are you vegan friendly?" Instead of, "Do you just serve vegan food?" Why do they?
yeah.
We don't phone a steakhouse or a restaurant and go, "Are you carnivore friendly?" We phone and say,
Yeah.
"Listen, have you got steak on the menu? And if so, how big?"
Yeah.
It's as simple
Yeah.
as
Exactly.
we're loud
I
and
think
proud, us carnivores.
exactly. I think that I think it's changed now, but in the beginning, um, a lot of the people who subscribe to a vegan diet were
Right.
quite evangelical about it. And I think that's where people, where their backs came up and said,
Mm.
it's, I think that was where it is. If everything, there are a lot of people that, or groups or societies or things that get evangelical and put someone else off. And I just think vegan eating is good for us. Patty and I feel really good during the week
Mm.
eating plant-based. And also, I think in the South African diet, in Lebanon, the food is very plant-based, very much so. In South Africa, we eat a lot of meat, and then the vegetables play kind of not even a supporting role. It's kind of a minor role in the background. And I think it's time we start to re-educate and change that narrative. There's a lot of science behind the healthy aspect of a plant-based diet.
Right.
I think, I definitely do think that there's a lot of, in South Africa especially, where meat is such a prominent thing, it's very much necessary to change the narrative. And because it's been, plant-based has been such a minor supportive role, we kind of tend to cook vegetables in the same way, and it's boring, and it's just kind of there
so that inch of their lives.
Exactly. And we cook the same stuff over and over just so that we can swallow our steak. And I think that this book is really there to change that whole narrative and to say, but there's some exciting things and exciting combinations, and so I'm really excited about changing people's perceptions about plant-based.
But Sophia, chicken ain't like a vegetable. You know that.
I know, my brother always says that. Yeah, but in this case, there was no chicken. No chickens were harmed in the making of this book.
Now, because it's an e-book, I noticed that in this particular photograph, there is a phone, which means there's an app, which means you've got no excuse for not taking this into the kitchen with you.
Yes. So there's not an actual app, but the ebook comes in two formats. One is EPUB, and one is, I'm sounding very technical now, just don't be fooled. I'm just
very impressed.
Throwing it out there. And the other one is in PDF format.
Okay.
And it can be downloaded on your phone or your tablet or your laptop. And I think, as much as I love to hold a book and page through a book, it's definitely the way things are going.
Yeah, but there's nothing stopping people once they've purchased it from printing out the PDFs and putting it into a folder or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're just hoping they won't download it and send it to all their friends. That's the one thing we hope that won't happen.
Yeah, they say that a Reader's Digest, if I remember the stats correctly, one Reader's Digest has only one purchaser, but 45 readers.
I hope that doesn't go for this. It takes a lot of work, and many, many weeks of putting something like this together. And it's not just it's not a cut and paste, and you actually have a designer designing a book, which I might one day print. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So one hopes.
I mean, just take us through the book. You say there are 18 recipes in the book. Are they all sort of main meals, or have you got starters, mains, and dessert?
Absolutely. There's a bit of everything. So obviously there are a lot of salads, but there are warm salads and cold salads, and depending where you are, soups, warm soups, cold soups, desserts. It's amazing. I mean, I made the most amazing vegan, I'm saying vegan, but plant-based ice creams, and it was just a lovely process, really a lovely process.
Did you come up with any recipes utilizing something that you never expected to use in that recipe? Something that is just so out of left field, and I'm using the pun intentionally now, that you went, I never knew that I could cook with that, or that would taste like.
Okay, I'm gonna have to, while we talk, I'll just scroll through something. I can't actually say that, and the reason for that is we are very adventurous eaters. We love food, and we love testing things. What was unique is combinations.
Okay.
That was very unique. So I made, for example, I'm scrolling here on my device.
That's fine. You don't have to
I
hide
made
it. You know, you can
chilled.
lift it up and hold it if you want. There
I
you
made
go.
a chilled roasted tomato soup with vanilla and dark chocolate. So there were combinations that were very interesting. I made a mango and I'm just trying to think, mango and cardamom and coconut ice cream.
As
So the
people would say,
combinations were interesting.
dis nou vir jou 'n ding.
That was a thing. So it was really, it's something else. And I think, you know, if you've got the vegetables, as I said, and people are bored with vegetables, I wanted to add a little bit of quote unquote spice
Yeah.
to it, you know, do different combinations, add weird things so that people become excited about trying new things. So that was my goal with it.
Now, you just recently had a cooking weekend. Was that weekend based on this book or based on previous books?
Well, the classes that I teach are very much Lebanese based.
Okay.
And so we had a Lebanese cooking weekend in Montague. We stayed at we were hosted by an amazing guest house called In Abundance. And we did the cookery classes there. So on Thursday evening, I did one for the locals. And then on Friday, our guests arrived from out of town. We had guests that drove all the way from Pretoria. I felt deeply honored.
Wow.
So we had a wonderful group. The rest came from Cape Town and surrounds. And we started their weekend with a little walking tour of Montague, which is lovely. There's a very talented tour guide, and she's wonderful. She's eccentric and wonderful. And then she ended at, in the old KWV building, there's someone who's just developed a movie theater called the Odeon. And we met them there with Lebanese snacks, and we had a little drink and some snacks. And then we watched a Lebanese movie together, which set the tone for the weekend.
Okay.
And so on Saturday, we cooked, and we had a feast in the evening. It was just magic. It was a magical evening. And, you know, Lebanese culture is very much feasting and big tables and lots of food and lots of laughter. And it really was that.
Do you believe that events like this, given the year that we have just experienced, 2020, which was sort of a decade in 1 year,
Yes.
do you believe that these sort of events are going to be the way forward, even if it's only smallish groups, but it's just people reconnecting with each other, learning to be social again? Because I don't know about you, Sophia, but I battle in groups now, and you know how gregarious I am. But
Yes.
the year has set me back, and I don't want to say I don't know how to behave socially. I never did. But now even
I was just gonna say, but thanks.
hey, what the heck? Go large or go home. But it's very difficult for humans to go, yes, we can. Yes, we can meet other people. Yes, we can interact off of Zoom. We can interact face to face if we're wearing masks, or if not, then we social distance. But we have to be aware constantly. But I think what you're doing and food will be what brings us back together, because if we go all the way back to the days of the cavemen sitting around in front of their caves with a fire, that's what it was. That they didn't have television, they didn't have theaters and movie houses, but they had fire and they had food and they had each other to talk to. And maybe that's what you're starting, that sort of movement all over again.
I'm hoping so, David. You know, I've made my classes smaller. And it's been a weird year, and I think we just need kindness and acceptance. You know, some people arrive and they're afraid and they wear their mask, and then we all wear our mask because we are kind and accepting. It has been a weird time. And as you say, you know, for us, I found that COVID almost made me introverted. I used to be Little Miss Congeniality, and now I'm just happy to be at home. I'm happy to just be with Patty. I'm happy to sit with a bowl of food. And even for me, it's good to get out and to be with people and to, I think I really think that the world has shifted permanently.
Yeah.
And I hope that there are lessons that we as a human species has learned that will stick and that we will adhere to in future, because there were some very valuable lessons that we learned through COVID. And I think these times people are also, there are two sides to it. One is the fear of big groups, and the other is I just want to be with someone. I just want to be acknowledged. I just want to be part of something. And I think that is what people are really enjoying. And as I said, we take each group where they're at.
Yeah.
So, I just think the world needs to be very kind. We need to be patient with one another and kind with one another. And we're going to have to relearn a lot of things and maybe completely unlearn and forget that we ever did some things. And I really do think that.
I hear what you're saying. What I miss most is hugging people. I'm a very tactile person. And with the exception of my wife, I've only hugged 4 people in the last year. It was my daughter when she came up from Cape Town, because we hadn't seen each other in over a year. And we both showered and masked up and sanitized and everything. And then we just held each other for the longest time. My mom-in-law for once in the year and a half. And then 2 people in another family that I just could not help myself. And they went, all right, we'll if you'll hug us, we'll hug you. And it feels so strange to hold another human being. It's like we'd never done it before. This is a whole new adventure. And we're going to have to relearn that. And as I say, I think food is the way to acceptance of those sort of things again, because food is a common denominator. We've all got to eat.
Food is such a connecting force to me. It's not just, it is a force. And a lot of people come to my classes and they've been alone for a year and they actually need a hug. And often I will just, you gauge people and you're very careful when people arrive. It's hand washing and sanitizing and what. But sometimes I have to say to the universe, you have to protect me because David needs a hug. And I will just hug someone because people are hungry to be acknowledged, to be touched. It's amazing.
So I'm assuming, let's just go back a step. I'm assuming that Going Home is still available at the bookstores, and via you, people can still buy this. And if they haven't, they need their heads read, literally and figuratively, because this is one of the most glorious, and I'm no cook, but the photographs and the stories in this book are worth having this on your shelf, even if you never make a recipe out of it. It's just a got to have. It's as simple as that. So I'm assuming that that's still available. And now, of course, you've got Handful of Earth, and that's available off your website.
Yes, so Going Home has never been in the bookshops, but it is available on my website, which is www.sophialindop.com. And it's very much part of my life. It was written as a love letter to my dad in his memory, and I am very proud of it. And I am proud of the story and the whole effort. And then A Handful of Earth is also available on my website to be downloaded. And as a little teaser, there's something else coming very soon. So
now you see, you jumped the gun, because that was going to be my next question. You mustn't answer. You must read your script.
Okay.
Read the script that I sent you, which said, don't tell me about what's coming up until I ask you the question.
But I never stick to rules. You should know that by now.
I don't know why I bother sending it to you. So Sorry, did I catch you with a mouthful of wine there?
Exactly, David.
Yeah. So can you give us, that's not a teaser, that's just going, something's coming up. But can you give us a teaser as to what the something is?
Yes, I can. So we shot another ebook, and it is about gluten-free cooking. And we'll have to hang in there for another month or 2 or 3, I'm not sure, when I'll feel like it, and then I'll set that free into cyberspace.
I'm laughing because with gluten-free people, you know, they'll say, oh, I'm gluten intolerant, like we were talking about, I'm vegan. And I've decided I'm gluten intolerant.
Exactly. But you know, David, there's a huge I think a lot of people say they're allergic to gluten, which is not true. But there's definitely something, as a farmer's daughter, there's something that I've observed, and as a chef, it has continued. So sadly, in South Africa, we very much follow the American way, which is bigger, better, more. That is the sad fact of life.
Yeah.
So instead of having a little plot of land and growing your non-genetically modified wheat and being, you know, making beautiful breads as they do in Europe and in the Middle East and everywhere, we want crops that are astronomical. So we use genetically modified grains. And I really find that for me personally, I can't eat the wheat here. When I travel, I'm fine. I eat, in Lebanon, you eat bread with everything.
Right.
In Italy, you eat bread with everything.
Yeah.
In France, you're crazy if you don't eat bread. You know, that's just the story. And I'm fine there. But in South Africa, we are preservative crazy. We are genetically modified mad. You know, it's just we're not using food as it was meant to be. And so I do think there's a growing tendency of the intolerance. But I'm with you in that, again, it becomes evangelical.
Yeah.
And a lot of people suddenly who are not intolerant, who are not affected, suddenly are, as you know. So I think there's a lot of gluten FOMO happening.
There is indeed.
Or
But
non-gluten FOMO.
You mentioned bread. I just want to ask you why, the moment lockdown happened, March 27th, March 26th, 2020, nobody, with the exception of major bakers and chefs who specialize in baked goods, knew how to bake sourdough bread. By March 28th, everybody who was in lockdown could bake sourdough bread and banana loaves.
I was just going to say, but no, don't forget that. Don't forget that one. And the what was that, Dalgona coffee or whatever. I mean, there were such trends on Instagram during lockdown. You could see it happening, you know, and on purpose, if they were baking banana bread, I was going the other way because, yeah, it became a bit ridiculous.
No, it is. I mean, I've eaten more sourdough bread in the last year. My wife learned how to bake. Thursday night, Wednesday night, you've got to set the mother loaf free and do all of that.
Yeah, the mothership.
The mothership.
Has she given it a name?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately not. It's just in a bottle on the shelf, I think. I don't know. I walk in on a Thursday or Friday morning and there's bread, you know. But I've discovered that there's a problem with sourdough. I know we've gone away from your book. We'll come back to it.
That's fine. We'll go back.
What happens. Sourdough does not work well with peanut butter and jam, I've discovered. It doesn't do badly with Marmite and cheese, or just cheese. But the sweet stuff doesn't work well with it. And for the majority of the bread that we baked, I just ate it plain. I just wait for it to come out the oven, let it cool for about 30 seconds, and then climb into it.
Sourdough is great with cheese and tomato and salt and pepper.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've just taken to, I just take the banana and put blobs of peanut butter on, and that's how I eat it. So
Is that now a recipe for the new? That's what your next book
that's
should be.
what.
Crazy
Tell me.
recipes, crazy lockdown recipes, things that you can
Inspired by Batsiffin.
that you can literally, you put, I don't know, Marmite into a tomato, just stuff a tomato with cheese and onion, and you don't even need the
It would
bread.
be stunning.
I'm
It
sure
would be
it would
stunning.
be.
And have you ever had Marmite with honey? It's fabulous.
That I haven't, but many, many years ago when we were kids growing up, I remember going to the drive-in one evening and we opened the tin of sandwiches as one does back in those days.
Yes.
And our domestic help, bless her, had made sandwiches because my mom had said, make sandwiches that have like peanut butter and jam and Marmite and cheese and sandwich
Oh
spread,
God.
which I loved.
Yes.
So you know where this is going. So the
She did
sandwiches,
the whole thing.
the whole thing, but you know how delicious. And for years afterwards, I used to have triple decker sandwiches, which consisted of Marmite on the bottom and peanut butter
Yes.
and jam on top. And they were stunning.
Yes, it would work. I
It
know it
does.
would work. Why not? Why not?
And it's got to be on government white bread. You can't use anything fancy. I'm sorry.
That bread that lasts, well, the Woolworths one that lasts for 3 weeks and is perfectly fresh for 3 weeks. That one.
There's a bread, I don't know if you've had it in the States, that's called Wonder Loaf. And I don't think it
No.
contains a natural ingredient at all. And the bread can be utilized for about a year. And I
Oh my
remember
God.
taking the whole loaf when we were in New York. I bought a loaf of the bread to prove a point to my parents and my sister. I took the whole loaf
Yes.
and it squashes down like a marshmallow or like candy floss.
Oh,
And then you eat the whole thing and it's gone in a flash. But there's
oh my
nothing
God.
natural in it. They use it for
The
school
mind
sandwiches.
boggles. The
The mind
mind
boggles.
boggles.
You don't know what you're putting in. But to go back to your book,
Yeah, thank heavens. We
you
have a handful of earth.
you have a handful of earth. What can I say?
Exactly. But David, don't you find that food has become, during lockdown, food has become very important to people, and cooking at home and the whole togetherness and what food used to represent? There's almost
Exactly.
a glimpse of it.
Exactly. And sitting down together to have a meal,
Yes.
which
Yes.
we don't do anymore because most of the time you sit down in front of the TV with something on a tray that you've just taken out of the microwave because it was quick and easy. And now, I mean, my wife and I discuss every day what we're going to have for dinner. Sometimes I'll cook, sometimes she's cooking. I'm not a great cook by any manner of means, but I'll throw
Yeah.
something together so that I just add into the mix,
It's
and
wonderful.
it's such fun. And now with going away shortly, it's the first
Yes.
self-catering away that we've done in a while. So there's a
Yes.
table full of things in the kitchen. And I know we're going to
Oh,
forget something like a can opener. And then we're going to have to reorganize entire menus. There's always something that you forget. But
there's
I'm
always
looking forward. I'm looking forward to that so much that we'll just, there will be meat, but there will be
yes.
plants and there will be salad and all of those nice things.
I love meat. I have to say, I really love
Hey,
meat.
so do
I
I.
tried for a bit to give it up completely, and I just couldn't.
No, there's as
And
long as
I
there's
don't feel unhealthy on it.
yeah.
But if you eat meat the way we eat it, we eat
Yeah.
meat with loads of vegetables. And
Well, then it's
but Patty and
okay.
Patty and I also have a rule: no cell phones on the table. We lay the table every night. It has been like that since we got married.
Oh, that's
We have a glass
wonderful.
of wine,
Yeah.
a candle lit, a beautiful napkin, and we talk. How was your day? Or what do you think
That's
of this?
wonderful.
And it's essential. And I think this is what COVID has taught us again.
COVID, and don't forget, thank you, ESCOM, for the candlelit dinners,
Oh,
whether we want
thank
them or
you,
not.
ESCOM. Yeah, whether we want to be romantic or not,
Yeah.
we are. We now are.
The book is called A Handful of Earth. It's by Sophia Lindop. It's available on www.sophialindop.com.
Come.
Not .co.za.com. go download, purchase, download. Don't give it to your friends. Sophia's trusting you with this.
Thank you.
If we catch you doing it, we will come to your house and we will cook you sourdough bread until you are so ill that you won't ever do it again.
Exactly. Never, ever.
Never, never, ever. Sophia, as always, it is an absolute joy to chat to you. You are a breath of fresh air in this terrifying world that we find ourselves at the moment.
Thank you.
And more power to your next books, your the gluten-free and whatever else comes afterwards. I look forward to chatting to you about that in the not too distant future. Thank you so much for joining me here on In Conversation With.
Thank you, David. It was lovely to be with you.
My guest has been Sophia Lindop, and this has been In Conversation With. I'm David Batshoffen. Until the next time, bye for now.